Welcome to the flight simulator EL2 Cliffs of Dover. This is a Heinkel 111, a plane which was used during the Battle of Britain. My name is Nada Zero. And this is the first video of a series of tutorial videos showing how to start, fly and land the Heinkel 111, including the use of the CloD bomb sight and the autopilot of this plane. Before we jump into the simulation, we have a look to the map and we are going to see where the mission is actually going to start. This is a map of the English Channel, and here we can see where the Battle of Britain took place. Our starting point is this airfield in France, which is especially good for bombers. We are going to start at the airfield. We are flying south and then we are turning around, flying north to Saint-Omer and Dunkirk. On this way, up to this waypoint, we will see how to use autopilot and to fly straight forward. Then from Dunkirk on, we are going west and we are seeing how to use a CloD bomb sight, and we are attacking an airfield in Hawking in England. After the attack, we are turning back home and we are land on our home field in France. This is the airfield in France. It has a very long runway, which is very good for the heavy bombers. And I'm starting in a parked position, which means that the engines are cold and we have to see and go through the full startup procedures. The plane will spawn at this point, and from that on we have to drive to the starting point and we can use the long runway to start to our mission. So let's jump into the cockpit and see how this is done. In the cockpit of the Heinkel 111 we see a lot of gauges, indicators, switches, levers and handles. And for a flight with full engine management we need almost all of them. This seems to be a little bit complicated, but don't be afraid, it is not as hard as it appears. If we look over our head we see a lot of gauges and they are separated, so on the right side we have everything we should know about the engine, and on the left side we see everything we should know about the flight. For example, here we see the speed, we see the altitude, we have a compass and an artificial horizon. To the left from the pilot seat we have a lot of levers to control the plane, and additional stuff is on the right side. So let's start with flight, and the first thing we have to do is the co-pilot needs to be seated where he belongs to, and he is still checking the machine gun, so I'm switching to his position with C, and then I'm switching back with Shift C, and then he is sitting where he belongs to. Now we want to start the engine. So before we can start the engine we have to open the fuel cooks, Kraftstoffhahn in German. I have a key assigned for this and I need to push this key 3 times, and then we have the position where the fuel cooks remain during all the flight. The next thing I'm doing is I'm giving a little bit of throttle, so something about 10%, and then I need keys for the engines because we have to start them separately. I have the one key for the left engine and then I'm pressing the I button to start the engine. On my machine I have the 3 key for the right engine, and then I'm pressing again start, and the right engine is running. The 2 key is to select both engines, and a lot of the levers I'm using from now on are for both engines at the same time, so I'm using this. Here we have the temperatures. The green ones are for the water and the red ones are for the oil. we have to watch them, and they needs to be about, the water has to be at about 60 degrees and the oil at least 40 degrees when to move. On the right side up here we have the fuel and the oil pressure. It remains in this position until something really bad happens to the engine, so we don't need to look there all the time. While the engine is heating up, we can look for the aileron trim. This remains in a centered position. Then we have the elevator trim to the right of the pilot seat. This goes a little bit to the back. And here we have the rudder trim, and I'm trimming always about 1.5 to the right. So while the engines are heating up and the cooling water is already at about 60 degrees, so now we have to open the coolers. Those yellow handles here are for this, and we need to hold this for a few seconds, and then they are opening more and more. And when they are open, we have to watch for the temperatures and control this all the time. So if the temperature is too high, we need to open them more, and if it's too low, we need to close them a little bit. This has to be done during all the flight. The oil temperature is not changing that fast, so it's now at a point where we can start rolling. And during taxiing to the starting position, it's going to heat up more. I'm releasing the brakes and giving more throttle, and so we start moving. We can control the direction with the rudder because the air from the engine is giving a little bit of possibility to control with the rudder. It's also possible to control with one-sided braking, but this is very dangerous in the Heinkel because it likes to flip over and the flight is finished before we get into the air. And we also can control the direction with the throttle, so we can give more throttle on one engine, and then it's very easy to control the direction. I'm speeding this up a little bit. So here we are on the runway. Before we can start, we need a few additional things. The first thing is the oil coolers, those two guys here. I have a key for this too, and they have to be opened now. And then we have to lower the flaps. This handle is for the flaps, and in front here we have the indicator for the flaps. They have to go to 20 degrees, so I'm using the lever to lower them, and then I'm pushing it back. So now we have 20 degrees flaps. The propeller pitch is on maximum revs. This is controlled with these two switches here. They are on 100%. So we get maximum revs. So checking the temperatures again and doing some final controls. We don't have forgotten anything, so it's time to start. I'm releasing the brakes and I'm giving full throttle. So the plane starts moving, and the first important thing is to keep as straight as possible on the runway. And while speeding up, we have to take care for the speed. We need about 140 kilometers per hour to get started. When we are going faster, I'm lifting a little bit the tail. This is reducing drag, and we are now rolling on two wheels. And the speed is building up more and more. We are now at about 130 kilometers per hour. We are now reaching 140 and stay a little bit because faster is better, and then it's time to lift off. So if we are up into the air, the first thing is reduce drag by getting the gear up. And now we are accelerating further. It's very dangerous to fly with low speeds in the Heinkel because at 140 it tends to stall and to one of the sides and crashes, so we are better faster than 160. The gear is coming in and the red lights indicates that the left gear is already in. So now it's time to get the flaps up. And I'm going to the handle and lifting the flaps by just pushing it a little bit forward. So when the flaps are in 0 degree position, we are putting the lever back, and now we are up into the air. We are fast enough, and if you check the map, we see that we are almost on the right course to the first waypoint. So the start was successful, and in the next video we will see how to fly in a straight line and use the autopilot.